Buti pa sila, meron panlambingan. Buti pa sila, meron pang kilig. Siguro dapat ibalik natin yung dati. Siguro dapat ligawan kita ulit. Dapat ibalik natin yung lambingan. Ibalik natin yung kilig.
I love you.
Ang pagkukusa sa gawaing bahay ay pagmamahal sa iyong may bahay. Because care work is teamwork.
Dati nung di pa ako tinutulungan, sobrang pagod na talaga ako. Ngayong nagtutulungan na kaming mag-asawa, mas nakaka-focus na po ako sa aking pagtuturo. Siya na yung naglalaba, naglilinis ng bahay, nagpapaligo ng bata kasi ako, mas nakakapag-ayos na ako sa aking sarili at mas naging close na rin po kami ng aking mga anak.
Nung dati, akala ko ang mga gawaing bahay para lang sa mga kababaihan. Andun lang ako sa mga barkada, inom. Na-realize ko na ang kalalakihan dapat tumulong sa gawaing bahay. Sa aming pagtutulungan, gumana ang aming problemang pinansyal, nakakapasok ng madalas ang aming mga anak.
pa sila. Meron panlambingan. Buti pa sila. Meron pang kilig. Siguro dapat ibalik natin yung dati. Siguro dapat ligawan kita ulit. Dapat ibalik natin yung lambingan. Ibalik natin yung kilig.
I love you.
Ang pagkukusa sa gawaing bahay ay pagmamahal sa iyong may bahay. Because care work is teamwork.
Nung dati, akala ko ang mga gawaing bahay para lang sa mga kababaihan. Andun lang ako sa mga barkada, inom. Na-realize ko na ang kalalakihan dapat tumulong sa gawaing bahay. Sa aming pagtutulungan, gumana ang aming problema pinansyal, nakakapasok ng madalas ang aming mga anak.
Tikang hanaisto kan akong asawa. Ako na ang naging nanay, naging tatay han akong pamilya. Nga tanan ha trabahoon ha balay, pati ang pagpakabuhi akon nga tanan. Simple lat akon hingyap, makatapos lat akon mga anak pag eskwela.
Buti pa sila, meron panlambingan. Buti pa sila, meron pang kilig. Siguro dapat ibalik natin yung dati. Siguro dapat ligawan kita ulit. Dapat ibalik natin yung lambingan. Ibalik natin yung kilig.
I love you.
Ang pagkukusa sa gawaing bahay ay pagmamahal sa iyong may bahay. Because care work is teamwork.
Dati nung di pa ako tinutulungan, sobrang pagod na talaga ako. Ngayong nagtutulungan na kaming mag-asawa, mas nakaka-focus na po ako sa aking pagtuturo. Siya na yung naglalaba, naglilinis ng bahay, nagpapaligo ng bata kasi ako, mas nakakapag-ayos na ako sa aking sarili at mas naging close na rin po kami ng aking mga anak.
Nung dati, akala ko ang mga gawaing bahay para lang sa mga kababaihan. Andun lang ako sa mga barkada, inom. Na-realize ko na ang kalalakihan dapat tumulong sa gawaing bahay. Sa aming pagtutulungan, gumana ang aming problemang pinansyal, nakakapasok ng madalas ang aming mga anak.
pa sila, meron panlambingan. Buti pa sila, meron pang kilig. Siguro dapat ibalik natin yung dati. Siguro dapat ligawan kita ulit. Dapat ibalik natin yung lambingan. Ibalik natin yung kilig.
I love you.
Ang pagkukusa sa gawaing bahay ay pagmamahal sa iyong may bahay. Because care work is teamwork.
Magandang gabi po. Welcome to the first community session of Home Squad PH, presented by Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women. Hi, my name is Jada. I'm from Republica FM1, and I've been married for 19 years. Hoping my husband is not tuned in, just in case I'm making a mistake. And I'm a working mom to 2 kids. I am so happy to be your host tonight. Now, our audience in Zoom and those tuned in via our Facebook and YouTube live stream right now, thank you for joining us, and good evening, everyone. In this community session, we'd like to open the conversation on unpaid care work with all of you and why this advocacy matters to all of us. Mas ipapaliwanag sa atin yan ng mga speakers and experts invited by Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women. Oxfam Pilipinas has been working in the Philippines for 30 years. It's working towards a future where Filipinos, especially women and other vulnerable sectors, are free from the injustices of poverty. In all the programs of Oxfam Pilipinas, they promote women's voice and leadership and decision-making in matters affecting their daily lives, such as their reproductive health and livelihood. Now, Investing in Women is an initiative of the Australian government to improve women's economic participation, build markets for women, and influence the public and private sector environment to promote women's economic empowerment in Southeast Asia. Siyempre, we want to hear from everyone in our community session tonight. Kumusta na kayo? Now, if you have care work concerns and how you're coping. Now, can I ask you to go to the chat box and use an emoji to express how you're doing tonight? Thumbs up, smiley. Let us know kumusta naman kayo. From Janina Francesca Capco to everyone. JK Flores to everyone. Yeah, this is to everyone. Helen Christine Sabilio Guerrero. Amparo Mishano. Hi, what's that emoji? From Alyssa Balite. Hi, Alyssa. Thank you so much. Again, from Christina. Nico Magalona. Smiley face then. Okay. Hi to Ariel Esturas. And later on, John Alster, we are gonna say hi to most of you. Okay, so this is live. You know how things happen live on online, technical difficulties and all like that, internet connection. But I'm quite confident with everybody's internet connection tonight. It's already past 8 o'clock. So medyo malakas yan. We don't have competition in our internet connections. Thank you so much. I hope you guys participate actively so we can have a fun and meaningful kwentuhan in this community session, okay? You know what? Our topic for tonight, what is our now normal? Life hacks on job stress, care work, and community quarantine. So those are the things that you have to remember, okay? Now normal, not new normal. Life hacks on job stress, care work, and community quarantine. Now, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, we invite you to share the streaming link, tell all your friends, and ask everyone to join us here with the hashtags HomeSquadPH, Care Work is Real Work, Care Work is Shared Work, Pro Women Measures Now. So those are the things that you can see on your screens. You can screenshot that or write it down and tell your friends all about it. Now let's kick off our community session with this video on unpaid care work. Please watch this.
Every day, people spend time on chores like cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, caring for children, the sick, and the elderly. These activities are called unpaid care and domestic work. Responsibility for unpaid care and domestic work worldwide falls disproportionately on women and girls. They are expected to take on household chores even while contributing to the household income. This double burden results in fewer options for women. Often, they turn to low-paying, informal, or home-based work in order to prioritize the assigned tasks at home. Who should be responsible for unpaid care and domestic work?
Gumagawa dapat ng gawaing bahay ay mga babae. Katulad ko, kahit na nag-aalaga ko ng anak ko, ako pa rin ang gumagawa ng lahat. Naglalaba, nagsasaing, naglilinis. Dahil po, syempre bilang isang ina, ako dapat ang gagawa nun. Dahil ang asawa ko, siyang nagtatrabaho.
Para sa akin, yung gumagawa dapat ng gawain bahay is yung asawa, yung babae. Bakit? Kasi dapat, para sa akin, yung lalaki talaga dapat yung totally kumakayod kasi yun naman talaga yung parang nakasanayan natin dito na tradisyon, di ba?
Para sa akin, ang dapat gumagawa ng gawaing bahay is yung babae. Dahil sila yung ilaw ng tahanan, kumbaga sila yung sign sa mga gawaing bahay, sa mga paglilinis, sa mga pagluluto. Kasi yung mister mo, siya yung nagtatrabaho para sa pamilya.
Sa aking palagay, ang mga gumagawa po ng gawaing bahay is babae po talaga. Kasi sila po ang katuwang ng mga magulang natin sa bahay. Tayo pong mga lalaki ay nagtatrabaho ng mga gawain pang lalaki po.
Pag babae po kasi, matik na po kasi siya pagdating sa society. Kasi po pag babae, kailangan po talaga sa gawaing bahay siya. So, responsibility niya po talaga na maglinis, magluto, or mag-alaga po ng bahay. Pero para sa akin po, kailangan din po, kapag available po yung lalaki, kailangan po tumulong din po siya sa gawaing bahay. Kasi not all the time naman po kasi sa panahon po ngayon, pati po yung babae, nagtatrabaho na din po.
Yung gawaing bahay po, magaan lang para sa babae, kayang-kaya ng babae. Kasi yung lalaki para yun sa mga pang mabigat ang trabaho.
Para sa akin, pareho dapat mag-asawa ang gumagawa ng gawaing bahay. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, parehong mag-asawa na ang nagtatrabaho para sa pamilya.
Research conducted during the first year of the COVID pandemic showed Filipino women spent 13 hours a day on unpaid care work, while men spent 8 hours a day. More than half, or 7 out of the 13 hours spent by women on care work, involves multitasking or juggling at least 2 activities at the same time.
Dito po sa Pilipinas at sa marami pang bansa, ang responsibilidad ng gawaing bahay ay mas inaasa sa mga babae. Dapat itong bigyang pansin lalo na mas naging mahirap ang unpaid care and domestic work para sa mga kababaihan ngayong may pandemic. In the face of communities where we work, unpaid care and domestic work is often heavy, inefficient, and unequally distributed. Providing care falls under the shoulder of women and girls, limiting their time to learn, to earn, and to take part in political and social activities of their choice. Care work is essential for personal well-being and for maintaining society's economic growth. While interest in assessing care work has increased, there remains a lack of understanding of the full spectrum of valuing women's work, especially unpaid care and domestic work.
Now, traditionally, the burden of providing care falls on women and girls, but that doesn't mean it's something we should continue to follow. In fact, there is evidence that this traditional perception that care work is women's work may be changing. That is the positive shift we want to see. Now, this may be the first time you're hearing the phrase unpaid care work. I know this is my first time to hear that or read it, yet it affects all of us. As you heard from those in the video who were asked the question, kaninong main responsibility ang gawaing bahay? Now, to jumpstart the conversation on unpaid care work, please welcome Ms. Leah Payud, Resilience Portfolio Manager of Oxfam Pilipinas. Good evening, Ms. Leah. Over to you.
Good evening, DJ Jada. Good evening, everyone. Sana lahat ay nakapag-dinner na, no? Maraming salamat po for joining us tonight. Unpaid care work is indeed an exciting topic to discuss, especially after dinner. Tama ba, DJ Jada? After dinner.
Yes.
So, ang Oxfam sa Pilipinas po has supported campaigns on unpaid care and domestic work. And because we really recognize that this is one of the most persistent and systemic barriers to achieving gender equality and women economic empowerment. Our partnerships with Investing in Women hopes to promote positive gender norms on shared care work and breadwinning among urban millennials, to convince Filipinos to challenge traditional thinking and recognize their equal share of responsibilities at home. So we look forward to the day when we find evidence of changing social perceptions and gender norms, aided by government and private sector support in the form of policies, services, and infrastructure that alleviate unpaid care work for all. To kick off the conversation with the government, tonight we are pleased to have a partner in the House of Representatives to champion legislative needs on unpaid care work. We're so glad that despite sa kanyang very busy schedule, she accommodated us in our online community session. I'm honored to introduce the Deputy Speaker, Lauren Legarda. Good evening, everyone.
For the most part, I was raised by my Nanay Feli Bagayas, an Ilocana, who has taken care of me since birth. It was a time when I had no power to dictate her compensation and benefits, and the overall environment was at best feudal. My nanay has borne the demands not just of manual labor, but of the mental load of ensuring my overall well-being. Thus, I consider the value she has devoted beyond priceless. It has been several decades since I switched roles and started taking care of her once I acquired the power to do so. I like to think that I've partly made up for any historical underpayments. Taking care of her is not a burden, it's a joy. It's not a burden to bear, a pleasure actually to enjoy. But I think in this way, I am the exception rather than the rule. Just to put it in context, Nanay was a household staff of my father when he was still single. He married my mother, and I, as the firstborn child, was put to the care of Nanay, a hardy Ilocana, who left Ilocos in the 50s to take care of me since birth in 1960, since my late mother was working in a bank and my father, of course, was also working. And so I was left in the care of that disciplinarian Ilocana who still lives with me now. Many of you will recall the article of a Phil-Am journalist who has since passed about slavery in his own home in the US, his inability to change the dynamic to alter the situation. I think we find ourselves in the same bind as a nation today. How do we denormalize discrimination and harassment in the areas of life we were born to and have come to accept? How do we speak out against the behaviors in our own family, sometimes against figures of authority in our lives? How do we speak for those whose tongues are tied by their fear of losing their jobs, or worse, for whom accepting harassment is sometimes ingrained? Much worse if other men speak for them, belittling their plight and discomfort and further weakening their ability to understand and take hold of that power. With all the strides we've made, even as a society that has comparatively valued women's contributions better than other cultures, we still have to struggle to gently and successfully break away from what is wrong inside our homes. We need to speak out and say on their behalf and on behalf of future generations of women that these conditions are not acceptable. It is quite counterintuitive because those who take care of us growing up are well loved, yet often still not justly treated by an older generation. As we step into the shoes of the adults, do we actually teach our children to still say thank you for every task? To acknowledge them when guests arrive as members of the household instead of helpful furniture? And no one should be allowed to speak on their behalf to interpret their own feelings about their situation. Part of the way to do is to ensure that policy protects those who cannot or choose not to speak out. And that as entire societies, we can still decry what we see as wrong and not contribute to the normalization of harassment in the domestic sphere. Paying them to grin and bear it only degrades them even further. I co-sponsored Republic Act number 10361, an act instituting policies for the protection and welfare of domestic workers. As then chair of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, I also sponsored the ILO Convention 189, the convention concerning decent work for domestic workers. This is a major step in ensuring decent working conditions, fair compensation, and sufficient benefits to our domestic workers. Through these laws, including the Safe Spaces Act, we've taken great strides in ensuring not only according value to unpaid work, but recognizing the true value of lowly paid work. And during this pandemic, when household help and staff have had to stay with their employers for months on end, a recognition of the rest day requirement must still prevail. It is difficult to imagine the true monetary value of the hands that patted your bottom as a child to put you to sleep, the ones that scoured gardens and markets for what to put on the table, the feet that trudged kilometers to fetch water. I suppose monetizing this has not been foremost in the agenda, partly because it is actually priceless. But priceless can be a double-edged sword. Yet this noble endeavor is work, and the lack of recognition for it as such has driven it out of the realm of the economic protections and values that we assign as a society. It is therefore high time that we place value thereto and all the benefits care work brings in terms of raising a family, a healthy and proactive citizen. It is one thing to finally see this gap in our economic estimations. It is another to ensure that such recognition translates to actual payment. Hence, it is important to analyze what strides had already been taken to recognize and pay for this labor. We typically refer to the DSWD's conditional cash transfer program as a way to compensate for unpaid care and domestic work. Cash transfers directly paid to mothers provide recognition of women's unpaid labor and can help increase women's bargaining power within the household. It may be helpful to tag these programs and see how they can be expanded. To add to this, we have the Dole Tupad and Pangkabuhayan, the DSWD Sustainable Livelihood Program, the DTI Shared Services Facilities, and we can perhaps recommend the expansion of their respective potential beneficiaries to include those who render unpaid care and domestic work. Of course, parameters and guidelines have to be set to ensure that opportunities for the concerned sectors are provided for equitably. Other forms of social protection transfers may also be explored, such as cash for care, non-contributory pension schemes, and as applicable, even tax benefits. Support and assistance in the form of what is called the care infrastructure should be given to make work more efficient. Water, sanitation, energy, transport, food services, daycare, childcare, care for the elderly and the differently abled, health services for the sick. For employers, employment-related care policies can also be instituted and implemented for the benefit of those employed who also have to juggle unpaid care and domestic work, such as leave policies, family-friendly working arrangements, flexible work hours, availability of part-time work. I'm urging all of you who employ domestic help to consider them as part of your families and understand that you are beholden to them almost as much as they are beholden to you. Compensate them beyond the minimum the law requires and ensure that they can speak out about any discomfort in the way they're treated, lest the wounds fester and unacceptable behavior continues as normal. And for those without household help, this is the now normal that we need to ease out into the better normal. Many of us who have had to stay home started to appreciate the learnings from taking care of our in-home well-being with plants and work-saving gadgets. During this pandemic, many households have forgone help. This is actually a learning opportunity for all of us in the family. It is sometimes necessary to enter a crisis situation to get a deep and comprehensive appreciation of what it takes to keep a household running. A little goes a long way when it comes to chores. Everyone that pitches in should be recognized, and the burden should be shared because sharing makes the burden lighter. Finally, I invite you all to recognize that the Greek word oikos, which means home, is a root word for both ecology and economy. Learning how to manage the household with as little wastage as possible, using every material that goes in, lessening overconsumption, planting food gardens, growing your own food in recycled containers. All these are challenges that can keep us on our toes, keep us all sane. And if we do this, we are faithfully recording what is spent and how far it got, as well as the materials coming in and out. We may even reach a level of sustainability in the household that we never thought could be possible. Honestly, this has given me joy during the pandemic, growing my own food, doing compost gardens. The plantitos and the plantitas are late in the day and are missing out if they do not have edibles. If you've not tasted tomatoes fresh from picking, put that in your list of things to experience during this crisis. And maybe, just maybe, it can provide us with a fresh perspective on things that will make for a better normal. Remember, Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, Republic Act 9003, that institutionalizes a segregation of waste at source, recycling, and composting. I wrote it as a young senator in 1998, passed in year 2000. 21 years later, during the pandemic, it is as relevant as ever. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Be safe. God bless.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda. So much shout out to the plantitos and plantitas right there. And Oxfam Pilipinas Resilience Portfolio Manager, Ms. Leah Payo, thank you so much. Once again, you still have time to tag your Facebook friends, to share our Facebook streaming link with the hashtags HomeSquadPH, Care Work is Real Work, Care Work is Shared Work, Pro Women Measures Now. By the end of this session, you will be able to memorize those hashtags by heart. Now, during the ECQ, BPOs ang isa sa mga industries that continued to provide much needed employment, not just in Metro Manila, but also in key cities in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Oxfam Pilipinas spoke with several BPO workers about their experiences juggling work responsibilities with care and domestic work. Let's watch their stories.
As the Philippines remains under community quarantine, the BPO industry enabled many of their employees to work from home.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Jen Subalisid and pwede niyo po ako tawaging Kim. Sa ngayon po ako po ay nagtatrabaho bilang call center agent.
Ako nga pala si Carmela Buenaventura, 42 years old. Married ako kay Chris Buenaventura. Magto-22 years na kaming kasal sa September 28. And nagtatrabaho po ako bilang isang call center agent sa Quezon City.
I'm Marky. I'm a baker. But during the pandemic, medyo tinamaan talaga yung business ko. Medyo humina. Good thing my partner introduced me to his work kasi na-hire siya February of this year. Ako, very recently lang. I'm a dental verification officer for a dentist clinic in Houston, Texas. So we verify the insurance and benefits of patients before they go to the clinic and have their operation or treatment.
My name is Mac, that's my nickname, but my full name is Cristina Marie Loya Gaspe. We live in Parañaque. I'm married and we have 2 kids, both are boys. I am working in the BPO industry for about 14 years now. I don't work in operations, but I am with the recruitment department. So we are the ones in charge of hiring agents for the company.
Working from home at the same time, I'm a single mom. Mahirap po siya in real life talaga.
Financially, naapektuhan po kasi kami. Ilang months kaming walang trabaho last year. So, yung mga bata, nag-offer sila na online selling, ganyan. Nakakatulong sila sa amin.
Nagka-COVID yung sister ko. Hindi ko na kasi exactly matandaan. Pero different household naman sila. Kami, nagkaroon din ng symptoms. And then by the time na nagpa-swab kami, wala na. Pero sa antigen, nag-positive kami. Super hirap kasi medyo nauna siyang labasan ng symptoms bago lumabas sa akin. Nung mga time na yon, syempre ako yung nag-aalaga sa kanya.
Kasi may trabaho ako and medyo demanding yung trabaho ko. So I need to spend a lot of time on my work. Tapos yung asawa ko naman, while he is hands-on, between the two of us, mas madami yung household chores na nasa akin kesa sa nasa sa kanya. So, nung nagsimula na wala na yung kasambahay namin, pinag-usapan talaga namin kung paano yung setup.
Pag sobrang frustrated ako sa ginagawa ko, kasi hindi may iwasan yung maingay din na environment kasi hindi talaga close yung bahay namin eh. Kumbaga naririnig yung kapitbahay, naririnig yung kung ano mang ingay sa labas, yung mga laro ng mga bata. Minsan masistress kasi syempre yung environment kailangan tahimik pag nag-work ka para makapag-focus. Mahirap kapag yung baby ko may kailangan, kakatok sa pinto, maingay minsan, maglalaro siya. So, ang hirap niyang pagsabayin kapag may mga kailangan akong gawin, lalo na nung nag-homeschool na din siya. Kasi, syempre, hindi mo magagawa yung dalawang task. Kailangan i-separate mo siya eh. Nagawa ko yung pinagsabay ko siya na habang nag-work ako, tuturuan ko yung anak ko, hindi ko mabalance. So, nag-failed ako nung una. Bago ako sumabak sa another day, pray muna ako para, alam mo yun, mas mapagaan yung loob ko. Ganun lang ginagawa ko and basta sinesegregate ko kung ano yung problema ko muna sa bahay. As much as possible, kapag mag-start na ako ng work, hindi ko muna siya iisipin. Kasi the more na iisipin ko siya, the more na hindi ako makakapag-focus sa work ko, the more na maapektuhan lahat. Preparing muna kung ano yung mga dapat na kailangan ng baby ko. Foods, pagpapaligo, pag-prepare ng mga modules, yung mga dapat na aralin niya sa school. Pag mag-start na ako sa work, wala nang interruptions. Makakapag-focus na ako. Technically, discipline lang yung kailangan sa ganon. And time management at the same time. Good thing na yung company namin nag-decide na magkaroon ng chat na account. At least hindi nila maririnig kung ano yung mga ingay sa paligid. Ang saya lang, syempre, kasi swerte ako sa supervisor ko kasi nila hands-on, ganyan. So, hindi ako nalileft behind kahit na hindi kami technically 8 hours nagwo-work, yung nakikipag-usap lang sa customer. Meron kaming meeting, meron kaming coaching, every week yon. So, sa ganon, tulungan lang din talaga.
Nasa bahay ako, tinuturo ko sa kanila kung ano yung dapat nilang gawin, pine-prepare na naming mag-asawa kung ano yung kailangan nila. Tapos kapag hindi nila kaya, binibilin namin sa magulang ko tsaka sa kamag-anak ng asawa ko kung ano yung pwede nilang i-guide sa mga anak ko. Tapos not by then po, unti-unti nilang natututunang gumawa sa gawaing bahay, yung mga kaya nila. Nagpupusa na sila, parang pinapanood nila kami.
Nung last April, nagkaroon ako ng COVID. Sabi ko sa kanila, huwag sila mag-worry, kaya natin to. As before, na pagsubok namin sa pamilya, sabi ko, okay lang si Papa. Kaya tumatawag ako sa nila kahit nasa isolation hospital ako. Sabi ko sa kanila, mag-vitamins na sila. Huwag sila mag-worry lagi. Huwag nila i-stress out nila yung sarili nila. Isipin lang nila mas better yung katayuan nila kaysa sa iba.
Yung distribution ng gawaing bahay, naghahati-hati silang magkapatid pag wala kaming mag-asawa. Yung kapatid nilang lalaki, pag wala kami, siya tigaluto, tsaka siya yung bumibili ng mga gamit namin sa bahay pag wala kaming mag-asawa. Tapos yung dalawang babae, sila yung in charge sa paglilinis, paghuhugas ng plato, at saka sa pag-aasikaso din sa mga alaga.
Pag ako po yung night shift, minsan ako po yung namamalengke pag pauwi na ako galing work. So kung may kailangang bilhin, ganyan, kaya kailangan bayaran na bills, ako po gumagawa. Kasi alam ko pag uwi ng misis ko, pagod na puyat na Eh ako mas kaya ng katawan ko. Kaya mas pinaprioritize ko yung pahinga ng misis ko. Pag day shift naman po ako, kung may mga kailangan sa bahay, kung kailangan nila ng bigas, ganyan, ako nagpro-provide sa kanila. Hanggat maaari po, hindi kami lumalabas Hindi ko pinapalabas po yung mga anak ko.
Since pandemic po ngayon, marami po yung naapektuhan, di ba, sa financially. So mostly, marami kaming irate agents na hinahandle. So parang dagdag stress yun sa amin. Kumbaga, pag login mo, pag take ng calls mo, galit na, parang sinusumpa ka na. Kailangan cool ka lang, huwag mo silang sabayan. Hayaan mo lang silang mag-vent out, tapos makinig ka lang. Tapos, tsaka ka na lang sumagot pag ready na silang i-take yung mga sasabihin mo. Huwag mo silang sasabayan kasi kapag nagsabay kayo, parang bibigat yung loob mo dahil sa situation na nararanasan natin ngayon. So, imbis na magalit ka, sabayan mo sila, intindihin mo na lang sila. Sa government, since panggabi ako, kagabi, wala talaga akong nasakyan, pero gustong-gusto kong pumasok dahil syempre lahat naman tayo kailangan ng income. So, naglakad talaga ako hanggang, hindi ko alam kung ilang kilometers yun.
3 kilometers.
3 kilometers naglakad ako para lang talaga makakuha ka ng masasakyan. From 8, nag-aabang ako, parang sabi ko magna-9 na. Wala pa akong masakyan. 11 o'clock yung pasok ko. Talagang naglagay ako ng allowance para sa transportation ko just to make sure na hindi ako malalate. Pero na-late man ako konti lang kasi wala na talagang bumabiyahe.
We start our day, depende din sa schedule ng partner ko kasi dentist siya, meron siyang sariling clinic. So, sometimes when it's really busy sa ginagawa namin, he would schedule them after lunch kasi Most patients then prefer after lunch na setup. So I have the whole afternoon. I could bake, I could design cake. Yung mga calls na part, kailangan gabi mo siya itatawag kasi gabi open yung mga kailangang tawagan for verification. Good thing na nakuha ko din yung work from home gig na to. Kasi laging magulo yung isip ko since the pandemic hit, and then yun nga, parang wala kang sure na araw simula nung nangyari yon. Financially naman, kami nung partners ko, ever since na nag-move in kami together, our finances are separate talaga. And though we are open about it, kung may isa sa amin nagsa-struggle, we would tell. And the other one will help naman. Ako kasi, being the panganay myself sa family namin, sanay ako na ako yung inuutusan. So, the chores, ako yung gumagawa talaga. Except for one, which is paghuhugas ng pinggan. Kasi since nagbe-bake din ako, so madalas din ako naghuhugas. So for me, na parang ako na yung nagluto, ako na yung naglaban, everything. Baka naman pwedeng yun na lang. Pero, ayun nga, natatawa na lang kami kasi yun lang din yung gusto niyang gawin kung yung work from home setup. It's here to stay. Yun yung realizations ko. And nung mga tao sa paligid ko, like my family, kasi almost lahat kami work from home setup na nobody goes to the office anymore.
When the pandemic started, meron kaming kasambahay. And yung kasambahay namin na yon, all around siya. So, nag-aalaga nung kid namin and siya din yung gumagawa ng gawaing bahay. So, kami mag-asawa, sanay kami na merong nag-aalaga ng mga gawaing bahay. Of course, tumutulong naman kami, pero majority of the chores, siya yung gumagawa. So, nung umalis siya, it was about 3 months into the ECQ. Hindi madali yung adjustment for us. Tapos in terms of yung hatian ng trabaho namin, it's based on ano yung mas kaya namin gawin, tsaka ano yung mas interesting sa amin gawin. For example, sa kanya, siya yung nagluluto kasi hindi niya ako pwedeng asahan magluto dahil hindi ako marunong magluto. Ako yung mas mahilig sa mga gawain na may tubig. For example, maghugas ng plato. So sa akin yan. Maglinis ng banyo. Sa akin yan. Paglalaba kanya. Kasi medyo mas mabigat yung trabaho paglalaba. Tapos, lang siya, once or twice a week, pero mas nakakapagod siya gawin. So, sa asawa ko yon. After yung maglaba, ako naman yung magsasampay. So, yon, ganun yung hatian namin. In terms of my team naman, so, we had to initially work with what we have. Kunyari, may sariling laptop. O sige, work from home. Kasi back then, ang inunang deployan ng mga computers are the agents kasi sila yung revenue generating and sila yung kailangan talagang hindi mag-stop yung work because of the continuous calls coming from other countries. If the clients allow it, then work from home is allowed for the agents, especially nung kasagsagan ng ECQ na ang hirap lumabas. It was also a big adjustment for everybody because lahat tayo, iba-iba yung setup natin sa bahay isa yun sa mga bagay na kinakamusta namin lagi sa mga recruiters na kamusta yung setup niyo sa bahay, especially for those na with kids, especially for those who are still living with their parents, especially those who have maybe poor internet connection sa bahay. So, we make sure na as much as we can, we extend assistance and we are also flexible. For example, yung mga may baby, kunyari, normally, on-site, kung ang start ng shift nila is 8 a.m., this time is flexible. Sige, you can start at the later time because we know that you have things in the house that you need to take care of first before you start with your shift. So, may mga ganong flexibility. As you move up the ladder and you're working from home, taking care of the family, mas nakakapagod siya, not just physically but mentally. In terms of moving up the ladder, there's no trade-off so far. Wala akong nakitang kailangan i-sacrifice yung family just so I can focus on my job and the other way around. Wala namang ganon. It's just that maybe also because of the pandemic, there are more health and mental concerns now. And mas nagiging, how would I say it? Mas nagiging, siya ngayon, evident. Evident with how employees are perceiving the workload and the pandemic. And it shows because they have been asking for mental health support. In school, we are taught na ang mga tatay nagtatrabaho, ang mga nanay gumagawa ng gawaing bahay. So ako, naniniwala ako na dun pa lang dapat ma-align na yung paniniwala ng mga bata na ang mga tatay pwede rin gumawa ng gawaing bahay. Ang mga nanay pwede rin magtrabaho.
The economic value of unpaid care and domestic work remains unaccounted for in our gross domestic product measures and even poorly represented in economic policy making. For Oxfam and our partners, we advocate for women to be supported. It's important for women to fully participate in higher level economic activities and have space for personal and professional growth. This is possible by sharing care work at home, redistributing the load of care work with other family members, especially among men. We are also advocating for collaboration between the government, the business sector, and the companies to enact policy change in the workplace that will support decent work agenda such as increased parental leaves, flexible working hours, and employer-supported childcare. Magsama-sama po tayo upang baguhin ang pag-iisip ng mga tao tungkol sa unpaid care and domestic work, patungo sa hinaharap na may gender equality and women economic empowerment.
Care work is real work. Support pro-women measures now. Join us on Facebook, Home Squad PH.
Ayan talaga naman. Nakarelate ba kayo sa mga experiences ni Kim, Carmela, Marky, and Mac? Share nyo naman sa chat box or sa comment section. Malaking bagay ang care and domestic work in our lives, and it became even more pronounced during the pandemic. Social distancing required that we stay at home and do most of our work at home. Like right now, I'm in my house. Now, Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women have commissioned research on unpaid care work. It's called Addressing Gender Norms on Unpaid Care and Domestic Work. Dr. Melanie Reyes, Executive Director of the Women and Gender Institute of Miriam College, will tell us more about the action research for this advocacy. Let's watch the video of Dr. Melanie Reyes.
Good morning or good evening to everyone. We are happy to share with you our ongoing baseline research on addressing gender norms in the time of COVID-19 with Oxfam Philippines and Investing in Women. So just to give a brief context on why we are doing this research, of course, we all know of the negative effects of COVID-19 to all of us. The spread of COVID-19 not only highlighted, but also exacerbated pre-existing inequalities and vulnerabilities of women and girls across all spheres. And these are seen in the loss of economic opportunities, problems in sexual and reproductive health needs, increasing cases of gender-based violence, and overwhelming unpaid care work. So this pandemic amplified the invisible and unpaid labor of women and girls, while the demand for women's unpaid care and domestic work intensified when most people were forced to stay home during lockdown and community quarantine. So these contributions have remained unaccounted for and in the economic response. No? This baseline research also supports Oxfam campaign on influencing gender norms in the time of COVID-19, which aims to create a positive shift towards supporting and recognizing women's significant participation in the formal economy. So this research has threefold objectives. So first is to surface gendered views, practices, experiences, and insights on unpaid care work and women's breadwinning among urban millennials and Bpo companies while coping with the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Second is to identify positive deviance with the Bpo sector and highlight how they have challenged these norms, adapted new practices at home and in the workplace, and framed such behaviors within the context of their overall response to the challenges posed by the pandemic. So in looking at positive deviance, we will try to analyze how the adoption and diffusion of new behaviors, no matter how uncommon such actions are, able to provide better or sustainable solutions to common problems faced by the community. And in this case, understanding the intricacies of facilitating behavioral shifts when it comes to the issues of unpaid care work at home and women's economic rights, particularly in the context of the pandemic. And finally, to determine possible recommendations, strategies to influence institutional decision makers to put in place enabling policies, work arrangements, and services that support shared responsibilities and women's breadwinning. So our primary data for this research will come from our survey and FGD responses, to be supplemented by secondary data from our desk review. So for the survey component, we have two survey tools. One for the primary respondents who are the urban millennials, ages 23 to 38 years old, working in BPOs, and preferably willing to nominate their partners or any household members to be our secondary respondents. The secondary research participants will be the primary participants' partners or spouse or a nominated member of the household who should be 18 years old and above. For the survey tool, it consists of 4 clusters. Cluster 1 will be more on personal and household information such as name, age, names of household members, etc. Cluster 2 is on gendered narratives. So here we will ask about participants' daily routine and household management, time allocation of the work that they do on a daily basis, decision making in the household, and about their workplace. Cluster 3 will be the framing the narratives within the pandemic. So here we have questions on household tasks and responsibilities during the pandemic and the coping mechanisms. And finally, on cluster 4 is on recommendations and strategies, especially for the workplace. So this will be a self-administered tool which will take around 30 to 45 minutes to accomplish. So we're encouraging everyone here who are eligible and interested to participate into the research to please access this link, which we hope can also be in our chat box for easy access. So the survey tool for household respondents have the same set of clusters and questions, except that it will not include anymore the cluster and recommendations and strategies. So it's quite shorter than the first one. Here we will have enumerators to get in touch with our respondents and do the interview. But we are also open to those who prefer for a self-administered survey, so we can also do that. The FGD or the focus group discussion aims to capture the range of their diverse experiences, gain insights into the reflections about their social relations in various contexts as they cope with the pandemic among the different categories. So we have all women group, all men, LGBT, single-headed. So this FGD design will be participatory, where participants can freely share their insights and identify support services or psychosocial activities that will be useful for them. So we'll try to cover the following aspects, describing the COVID-19 impact on their personal and professional lives and social relations, both at home and at workplace, the changes before and during the pandemic. Second, the coping strategies they employ, and the third is their post-COVID-19 aspirations for self, home, work, and society. So this session will end with sharing of information on available support services, for instance, on mental health or psychological support services. So this coming Sunday, we will have our first FGD with the LGBT groups. So that's August 29. So if there are anyone here who are free and interested to join us this Sunday, so please just send a message in the chat box and leave your contact details with Oxfam or with Oxfam Secretariat so that we can get in touch with you. So what would be the benefits of this research to BPO companies, specifically the result of this baseline research? We see this as something that will provide us with a deeper understanding of employees' well-being and the issues they face during the pandemic, particularly in relation to unpaid care and domestic care and breadwinning. Hence, this will allow companies to innovate ways to better support their employees' well-being, and there will be opportunities to participate in ongoing national policy advocacy on recognizing, reducing, and redistributing unpaid care work, and recognizing women's role in leadership and decision-making. So like this session and the succeeding sessions to be organized by Oxfam. And of course, this will provide our companies opportunity for innovative approaches and strategies to be recognized as exemplary business practices aligned with international standards on gender, diversity, and social inclusion. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope that you'll be able to join us in this very important research.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melanie Reyes of Women and Gender Institute of Miriam College. Again, we would like to invite our audience today to be part of this advocacy by answering the survey for the action research, especially those from the BPO industry. You still got Jada here from Republica FM1 hosting this first community session of Home Squad PH on a Friday night. Now, one constant concern na narinig natin from the BPO workers and echoed by many of us is yung need to pay attention to relationships and mental wellness. This pandemic gave us overwhelming challenges, and yet, there's just so much to process. Luckily, we are joined tonight by a life coach, Miss Apples Garcia of Unbounded Life Coaching Services. Apples will share tips that can help us hurdle some of our challenges in care and domestic work. Over to you, Coach Apples. Okay, Coach Apples. Is your microphone on? Maybe Coach Apples is getting ready and starting to unmute her microphone. Hi, Coach Apples.
Hi, DJ Jada. Hello. Hello.
Okay, let's begin. We need this session. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a Friday night. Alam po namin na wala kayong choice dahil sarado po ang mga bars, sarado ang restaurants ngayon, at hindi po natin alam kailan babalik. But nonetheless, we know you have a choice to just rest, lalo na yung mga galing sa trabaho, alam namin pagod, pero thank you so much for joining us para po makapag-aral at tuto tayo together, no? So allow me to share very few tips on how to avoid care work burnout and how to stay productive. Now normal na tayo. I like what Senator Lauren Legarda said, better normal. Let's go into the better normal. Noong March 2020, when they announced the ECQ, I'm pretty sure lahat po tayo pinagdaanan tong waiting tayo kung kailan matatapos. Akala natin sandali lang, no? So excited tayong matapos nun. Kaso hindi natapos, nandito pa rin tayo hanggang ngayon. Now, nag-start tayo mag-wonder. Yung iba may halo pa pong galit. Naghahanap ng masisisi. Bakit ba ito nangyari sa kanila? Sisihin ng gobyerno, sisihin ng, ang mundo, sisihin ng China. So, magugulat po kayo hanggang ngayon may mga tao pa rin na naghihintay at naghahanap ng masisisi. Pero ang kailangan po natin para makadating na po tayo sa better normal is to recognize and to really want to see the blessings in all this, no? And in the blessing, you will see, hopefully you will find the better version of you, not just for you, but for your loved ones as well. Sorry, check ko lang po kasi I think I see still the first slide. Tama po ba? Kasi I'm on the second slide. Let me just try that. Or is it just my delay?
Yes, Coach Apple, you're still on the first slide.
Okay. Kaya pala ako nagtataka kasi I'm sharing the slide number 2 now.
Baka may delay lang.
Oo nga
This is
eh.
what we were talking about a while ago.
Yes, kanina pa po tayo.
This is live. We are
Sige,
doing this
let me...
live on Facebook, on Zoom, and also on YouTube. So, Coach
let
Apples,
me
how
share.
challenging is all this online activity for you? I know how
Oh.
challenging it is for me.
Akala natin masasanayan na natin ito, no? Pero hanggang ngayon, we're still adjusting and we're almost on the second year.
There you go. I think there's your second.
Okay, hopefully. Is it now moving? Okay, very
yes,
good.
It is. Take it away,
okay.
Coach.
Yes, so I was saying for us to get to the better normal, according to Senator Lauren Legarda, we have to really choose to want and see the blessings in all these. Ang kahirapan po nito is isang bagsakan nangyari lahat. You know, one of the things that we are all experiencing is we are being part of history in the making. Yung mga magulang po natin hindi yata pinagdaanan something like this. Kung yung mga grandparents natin, baka yung mga matatanda nag-undergo ng influenza or Spanish flu virus, no? Pero we are part of history in the making because we are in the midst of evolution. And when you say evolution, there really is no turning back. One of the BPO employees said in the video, work from home is here to stay. Isa po yan sa tingin natin hindi mawawala. So we really have to learn and find our way into this. And hopefully when we find our way is that we come out in the next evolution as the next best version of ourselves. You know, during the day po, I'm a full-time administrator also for a school community, a 41-year-old Montessori school in Las Piñas, founded by our mom 41 years ago. Hi, Mom, if you're watching, and the OLPMC community. I asked their help to do a quick survey just to kind of help me understand not just ano ba yung difference, but where is their mind at? What are they feeling right now? So karamihan po ng mga sumagot is mga mag-partner sa bahay. Marami rin pong sumagot na single sila, ang primary role nila is really to take care of their parents. But majority of the ones who answer, they're really partners at home. Some of them have kids and some of them don't. Dito po makikita niyo, I had a question there and I asked, what is the most grateful thing right now about care work na pag tinanggal sa'yo, sobra kang maapektuhan? There's a slight difference, no? Sa mga women, ang sabi po nila, I'm so grateful for the support from my family. So whether that's my husband or my siblings or my parents, you know. But for men, sobrang grateful po sila sa quality time, which probably is shown in our survey, you know, kasi sila, probably majority of them are really the ones working. So ngayon na nasa bahay sila, grateful sila sa quality time na nasi-spend nila with their family. Yung second most grateful thing nila is convenience, because everything is just right there, easy to solve. You know, quality interesting po, a lot of them said appliances. We are so grateful for appliances that automate our lives. You know, washing machine and all those stuff, you know. So nakakatuwa lang po. So let's continue to really focus on what we are grateful for about during this time in the pandemic, especially those, you know, around us. Ang punot dulo po nitong lahat, bakit napaka-importante ng advocacy na ginagawa ng Oxfam is really we're looking after the well-being of everyone, you know. Generally are women who is really bearing all of the work, off-care work, unpaid care work. Pero intindihin po natin, allow me to share with you well-being is such a general term. Allow me to share with you what it really means. Okay, when we say well-being, it's really these 4 areas of our lives that we are managing every single moment, every minute of our life na hindi natin alam. Pwedeng alam natin or pwedeng hindi rin po tayo aware. But every single moment of our life, we are managing these 4 areas. Whether we like it or not, hindi po natin siya kayang takbuhan, hindi natin siya kayang iwasan. It's really there. So the more we are aware, the more we can find out saan po ba tayong area medyo hindi nagbabalanse. You know, baka kasi akala natin inis na inis tayo sa ating partner, you know, dahil kahit na anong gawin niya, parang hindi, walang effect, you know. Pero yun pala, ang punot-dulo talaga ng problema is money. For you, maybe money is a very big issue. Pero for your partner or someone you live with, it's not. So, very helpful po, no? Alamin natin na itong 4 na to, hindi natin kayang takbuhan at kailangan na tayo maging klaro na i-own natin siya. So when we say self and spirituality, spirituality is not really being religious. It's really finding inner peace, finding inner joy. And nangyayari lang po yun is pagkilala talaga natin ang sarili natin mabuti. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Ano ang gusto natin? Ano ang nararamdaman natin? At ano ang ini-expect natin sa iba? Kasi pag klaro po yung 3 yon, kaya po natin siyang sabihin at i-communicate sa mga loved ones natin. So that's self and spirituality, and dyan po nagsisimula lahat. Relationships, every moment of your life, you have so many relationships that you are managing, your partner, your children, your co-workers, your friends, your parents. Depende po where you are in your life right now. I'm pretty sure magkakaibang level yon. Pero, you know, pag isang relationship po medyo hindi maganda or hindi maayos, you cannot deny the fact na naapektuhan po kayo. So the more you're clear about that, kung ano ba yung mga relationships na yon and ano bang gusto nyo na makita doon sa relationships na yon, the easier na magagawan po nyo ng paraan, you know, and may iwasan ang burnout. Physical health, definitely, nalaman po natin yan, lumabas ngayon. Money and creativity. Why do we say creativity? It's not really being artistic, but it's really being able to create something. So when we say we are creating something, it could be something in our career, you know. It could be if we are at home, you know, something that makes us feel fulfilled kasi tayo po yung tayo gumawa nun. It could also be problem solving. Tuwing nagsisolve po tayo ng problema, we are being very creative. Makikita niyo po that later on bakit siya konektado. So we call this the 4 core or the circle of life, and it's very important po. In my clients before, it's really this one that they usually miss. Akala nila iisang bagay lang ang kailangan nilang i-focus at some point in their life. If you look at it, if you want to know po kung saan kayo talagang medyo naburn out or nai-imbalance sa buhay, you could imagine that the circle is 0 and the edge is 10. And then you could do it yourself right now or when you have time. On a scale of 0 to 10, what is your level of satisfaction in that area? You'll see maybe in your inner self, medyo mataas kayo kasi katulad ni yung isang magaling po na BPO employee kanina, she said she prays in the morning. You know, every morning she has to pray. So what she's doing is she's centering herself before, you know, life happens to her. So sobrang importante po yun. So you could do it, and then if you connect the dots, you'll see na kung saan po siya nanggagaling yung imbalance na yun. But you have to do it for all four kasi ito pong apat, sabay-sabay na kailangan yung i-focus every moment of your life, regardless of your age, regardless of where you are right now. You have to give attention to all four and you have to give clarity to all four. Akala po ng mga tao, success is linear, meaning pataas or pababa. If I lose weight, pababa, I'm going to feel good or successful. If I get a promotion, taas, or if I have a salary increase, I will be happier. Akala po nila linear, but you have to remember it's more of a sphere that you are really balancing and trying to make in a perfect circle. May nakilala na po ba akong nasa 10? Wala po so far. Kahit ako po, hindi po ako nasa 10 ngayon lahat. Pero ang kagandahan po niyan is malalaman ninyo kung saan kayo kailangan mag-work or focus on. Another thing to remember, kayo po is, this is your circle. Each person has their own circle. So if you're going to, for example, discuss about care work or improving your family or your household, you have to consider na meron din po silang kanya-kanyang circle na pag nagkaintindihan po kayo kung ano yung mga yon, tsaka lang po kayo makakapag-decide kung paano nyo maayos ang buong household and pamilya. Magandang example po ito, no? Dun sa quick survey, tinanong ko rin po is, what is the biggest challenge on care work right now? Just their thinking, it's very subjective. Na pag na-solve yun, it's going to be life-changing for you. So women po, ang pinakamataas ay time management. I'm pretty sure kasi baka ang dami pa rin po nilang ginagawang household chores, tas nagtatrabaho pa sila. Lalo na yung mga single moms, you know, shout out to the single moms. Pero yung mga men, ang naging top challenge po nila is work from home distraction. Sobrang magkaiba, no? So makikita niyo yung circle pa lang dito, magkaiba na. So for example, kayo po mag-partner sa bahay and this is also what your biggest challenge is, then you have to start talking about, no, paano natin ma-solve to, okay? Time management issue po and you work from home distraction. So it could be something like putting a routine, you know, para maayos ko yung oras ko at para we make sure na hindi ka ma-distract pag nagtatrabaho ka sa bahay, i-schedule natin yung mga kailangan natin gawin. So sobrang helpful to be very clear. Another one is cleanliness and order at home. Ang men, ang pangalawa nilang biggest challenge is learning new skills. You know, kailangan po natin intindihan rin na minsan, lalo na yung mga anak natin, pag hindi nila ginagawa ang isang bagay, minsan hindi dahil ayaw nila. Baka dahil hindi lang nila alam paano nila matututunan. So kailangan din po natin silang tulungan doon, you know, sa area na yon. So very quick tips lang po, no? So when you start, isang common denominator ang lumabas dun sa ating mga practical interviews. Ang ganda po ng mga examples, you know, those who are really working together in the home, in the household, how are they helping each other? Isang common denominator po is communication. Communication is very, very important. But, and this is a big but, we have to communicate to connect. Hindi po pwedeng mag-communicate lang tayo and sabihin natin, gawin mo to. Kailangan magkaintindihan po and really to understand ano yung pangangailangan ko, ano yung pwede kong i-offer, and ano yung pangangailangan mo at ano yung pwede mong i-offer. So clarity to connect, And then always watch out for your condition, physical health, and money. Mahirap po mag-focus sa money kasi contribution, pagka pera lang po, tumigil tayo doon, mababurn out at mas-stress po tayo. So make sure these 4 areas are very clear whenever you get or communicate or get into a conversation with your partner or your kids. Make sure na klaro po kayo, even with yourself. It's very hard because you saw it in the interview, yung simulang interview po. Marami pa rin po sa mga kababaihan natin na yun ang paniniwala, na sila ang dapat gumawa ng trabaho sa bahay. So, imagine niyo po, kung may anak sila, yun po ang natuturo nila sa anak. So, kailangan talaga sa clarity, it starts with the self. And everything else will follow. Okay. Ang dami-dami ko pong gustong sabihin sa inyo, pero kulang ang oras. But feel free to reach out to me in Facebook at Apps Garcia or Instagram, Apples Garcia. Just send me a question or anything you want to ask, and I'll be happy to do so at your service. Thank you so much. DJ Jada, back to you.
Thank you so much, Coach Apples. Ayan, marami ka ng followers. She has so many followers already on her Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and it's gonna multiply by the hundreds after tonight. Thank you so much, Coach Apples.
Thank
We will be
you.
sharing a copy of Coach Apples' presentation sa Home Squad PH. So please make sure you join our Facebook group, Home Squad PH. Now, we've heard a lot of insights from our speakers. We'd now like to get everyone back in the frame for our open forum. But before that, a special couple will be joining our conversation this evening. If you're active on Instagram, separately, okay, you might be familiar with their pages, Mr. Domesticated and Mrs. Domesticated. Ayan na, I can see them on my screen. Mr. Domesticated and Mrs. Domesticated are none other than Third and Tina Bagro. Now, just a very, very short history of their life together. They met in college, same university, but different campuses. Okay, I'd like to know more about that later on. And nagkatuluyan sila. Third is a lawyer and Tina is a doctor. Hi, Third and Tina. How are you guys
Hi,
doing?
DJ Jada. Actually, we met in the same campus. We were from the same campus, and then when we studied for law and medicine, we went to different campuses.
Hi, DJ Dada.
Okay.
Jada. Hi, DJ Jada. Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much. Okay, just tell us very briefly, before we go to the open forum, tell us how life is right now for Mr. and Mrs. Domesticated.
Well, I think it's really much different than prior to pandemic. We both had to adjust. But I must say that I like how Third is doing more now at home. Yeah, yes. I think a big factor is that because walang travel time, right? So yung travel time, ang laking bawas sa energy and time away from home. So though that time can be used now to help with the household.
Yeah. So can we hear from Third naman? How is
Yes,
it?
so I guess like everyone else, we are surviving, di ba? Every family at present is just trying to stay afloat, to survive, and while doing that, try to be as normal as possible despite the circumstances. So may mga new challenges talaga na binigay sa atin yung pandemic. But I'm sure like many of us, we find our way to adapt and to have fun kahit na we're in the midst of the pandemic pa rin.
The fun part is the important part. Okay, there's so many important parts in there, but the fun part, one of the most important parts of being together and being domesticated in this pandemic. So let's also bring back Miss Leia Payod of Oxfam Pilipinas and Coach Apples in the screen. There you go. We'll wait for them to be. There you go. Hello, Miss Leia. Hello, Coach Apples. So this is Third and Tina.
Hi, Third. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Leia. Hi, Apples.
Coach Apple.
Hi. Hi, attorney. Hi, Doctora. Hi,
attorney. Hi, Doctora. You're right. Okay. Our
It's
first
nice to see you
question is
again.
addressed to Miss Leia for Oxfam to. You mentioned redistribution of care work. What's the best way to encourage, and make people do that on a household level? Well, when parang si Third siya kasi Tina, parang ano sila pantay sila wala naman boss dyan.
O gusto ko sanang ibato yung question na yun kay na Third and Tina. Sorry, that's in the most practical sense. But before kayo papasa sa kanila, ano lang siguro, yung tagline ko dyan is, redistribution of unpaid care work is very important and equality should start at home. So, yun, mas maganda siguro in practical sense and practice, attorney and doctora.
All right, so I'll start. Actually, the three things that we said before is number one, to keep an open mind about these things. Kasi nga, meron talagang factor ng ano yan it's a cultural thing. Yun nga, nabanggit kanina ni Deputy Speaker Legarda, parang medyo pagka-feudal, diba? So it's really good to keep an open mind as a couple about doing housework or gawaing bahay. Number two, and make sure that you know what each other like doing in the house. So for us, kapag ako sa kitchen ako, gusto ko malinis yung kitchen. Ay, gusto ko dry siya. After mo maglinis, gusto ko dry. Hindi pwede ngayon. So she lets me be. Siya naman, mahilig siya sa pag-ayos ng mga gamit ng mga bata, toys, pag-shop for the kids, etc. So we let each other be. Tapos before, talagang siya lang yung may pakialam sa mga halaman. Pero because of the pandemic, and ako naman, I wanted our balcony, kasi we live in a condo. I wanted our balcony to be something na useful for me kung gusto kong mag-work doon or mag-exercise. So dahil sobrang ng daming halaman, napilitan ako to fix the balcony. And after I did that, nagustuhan ko na. So ngayon, yung garden namin, ako na halos yung siya yung bumibili, ako yung nag-aayos. So that's number two.
Add to cart si Tina.
Yes.
Exacto. So number one, keep an open mind. Number two, know what each other
brings joy.
Yeah, brings joy. Sabi nga ni di ba, Maricondo, sparks joy. And then number three, give and take. Give and take talaga. So hindi sa lahat ng so minsan mas busy ako, minsan mas busy siya. So bigayan. Yun. And siguro si Tina can share about practical things kasi nakita ko sa chat box yung mga questions kanina. Paano ba sisimulan yung discussion na yan?
Ayan, agree daw with
Attorney
Third. Cardinal rule of cleaning, kapag binasa, kailangan patuyuin to avoid ipis.
Yeah.
Practical.
So yun, I think just to add to what Third said, I think ang challenge dito, parang because it sounds so easy, right? It sounds so easy to do. But really, the big challenge, just like what Coach Apple said, is really communication. Now, how do you communicate it, right? So, parang natural sa relationship na meron kayong stage na parang you're not nangangapa talaga kayo, di ba? Na hindi nyo alam how to say what you feel, what you think, right? So, I guess this pandemic has opened up a lot of opportunities for us to really talk about what we want in our home. So, important yon. You have to discuss, really. Ano bang klaseng pamilya gusto nyo maging? Ano bang klaseng bahay ang gusto nyo? Diba? Kasi that's why I always, kapag nag-aaway na yung mga anak ko, namin, and nagsisigawan na sila, sasabihin ko, is this the kind of family that we want to have? Yung ganun. Are we this kind of family? A shouting family? Alam mo yun, yung laging nag-aaway na family, diba? So, yun, so I guess there's
like
a
now.
clear vision. No, nagre-react yung kapatid, yung anak ko kasi kinikwento namin sila. So, ganun. So there should just really be a clear vision. So I guess for us, it's parang it's a work in progress, right? It changes as we move through life, right? But we know that we want a good family. We want a family that talks. We want a family that is able to communicate. So that's what we are really trying to work on also. So yeah. So just to answer, because it's communication, kasi may question sa chat box kanina na parang, how do I communicate with my dad and my brother na kailangan tumulong sila? I think what works for us is really not to take things too seriously, because a lot of us girls have a tendency talaga naman na parang dibdibin, di ba, na parang nagdadrama na tayo, sa loob ng banyo kasi wala nang other space sa bahay. Sa loob ng banyo, doon ka iiyak, pagod ka na. Yung gano'n. Tapos bakit parang hindi nila ako naiintindihan? Wala man na akong time to rest, to have time for myself. Yung gano'n. But, so, I guess that happens. But for us, like, I think the more effective is that you parang take it as a joke. Yung hindi masyadong confrontational, yung ganyan. Kasi 'di ba, if it's confrontational, people tend to just shut you. Yung ganyan, parang okay, ayoko na makinig sa iyo, 'di ba? Sobrang defensive na. So parang kunwari, for me, I am super concerned about garbage, for example. So gusto ko lahat ng plastics namin sa bahay, nakaayos, at lahat ng maduming plastic dapat hinuhugasan, sinasabon, at isasabit yan. Isasabit, patutuyuin, and then aayusin. So, kapag may nakita akong plastic sa garbage can, sabihin ko, bakit may plastic dito? Tapos
Tinapon ko lang di ba?
Tapos sasabihin na lang dito, di ba tinapon ko na? Bakit nakita mo pa? Parang gano'n. So, nagiging joke na yung iba. Tapos kuminsan kapag sasabihin neither, pwede namang sabihin ng mas maayos. Sabi nga, oo nga, okay, sorry. Ganun na lang. So, yun. So, we try to do that. And then for more serious stuff, we try to talk about it. I mean, it's not perfect. It's always a process.
I guess depende talaga. Pero usually, mga Pinoy kasi hindi tayo talaga direct communication, di ba? Parang medyo roundabout tayo eh. We want to say what we want to say, pero the effective way of doing it is to say it indirectly. So halimbawa, pwede kang mag-joke about it. Baka sabi mo, hashtag Beke naman today. Pwedeng ikaw naman. Alam mo yun? Or maybe kung birthday mo, sabihin mo, okay, ang gusto kong gift sa birthday ko ay wala akong gagawing gawaing bahay. Tapos let them do it. I'm sure after that day ends, they will have a renewed appreciation of housework. Diba? So, make it light, that conversation, and I'm sure mas kilala niyo yung mga loved ones ninyo.
Tsaka di ba hilig naman tayo hashtag Bekenaman. So wala lang, natatawa yung mga tao. And they would, I mean, it's okay to tell your parents na, alam nyo, importante din naman talaga sa akin to. So, Bekenaman.
Bekenaman. And we also have to educate them with yung mga bagong hashtag katulad ng Beke naman. Kasi, so that they will understand that we're just joking, or we're talking lightly and things like that. And yes, tama yan, no? Parang the best way talaga is to just say it, not beat around the bush. Correct. Now, the next question is for Coach Apples talking about beating around the bush, not being able to say it directly, katulad na sinabi ni Serge sa ni Tina. Although you want to ask your family members for help, no, some people still end up doing the work all by themselves. How do you think, they can convince these other people in the house who are just sitting there, to share with the housework that everybody's doing something and you have to share. Yeah, you have to contribute. Paano yun, Coach Apples?
Oo. Kung magkaiba yun, kung napag-usapan niyo na po yun before pero hindi sinusunod, at ginagawa niyo pa rin po ang trabaho, catch-22 po yan. Ginagawa niyo ba yung trabaho dahil hindi nila ginagawa or hindi nila ginagawa dahil ginagawa niyo?
Oo nga. Tama.
So you have to have tama sila Attorney Third and Dr. Tina. It could be a very light conversation as long as you all agree to what needs to be done. Ang punot dulo po niyan is maintindihan ko anong kakayanan ng bawat isa. Kasi baka yung expectation mo dun sa anak mo or dun sa asawa mo sobrang pala na hindi nila kayang i-meet. Mag-i-end up na ma-frustrate ka. So kailangan intindihin nyo na ano yung kaya ng mga anak and ano yung kaya ng mga adults sa bahay. And huwag niyo po gagawin kung hindi nila ginagawa. Dapat may consequence. Always agree on a consequence. But most of all, dapat may reward or may positive reinforcement pagka ginagawa. Magkakaiba po yan sa edad or iba po ang positive reinforcement nyo sa partner or sa mga ibang adult sa bahay versus sa mga bata. So, and depends on their age po. So, yeah.
Okay, before we move on to our questions from the media, we would like to acknowledge Mac Gaspe. If you were with us from the beginning of this session, of this very first session, isa siya dun sa mga na-interview at nag-present dun sa ating BPO industry, the hurdles that they have. Hi! Ayan, si Mac Gaspe, nag-hi na siya sa ating chat box. Hi, Mac. Thank you so much for joining us live and alive tonight. Okay, so we have some questions from the media. First question. Since anybody can answer, okay, or all of you can answer, since unpaid care work is a complicated topic to discuss, how do we explain to housewives who are already making it their everyday norm? You know, for those who are used to it na. Diba, parang kasi we all grew up na you're not compensated for housework. So how do we discuss and explain it to housewives who have, I guess just like every one of us, we grew up into it. So who wants to answer? Siguro si Miss Leia from Oxfam.
Yes. Okay, thank you, DJ Jada. Gusto kong simulan siguro on the first R. Kanina gusto ko ring siyang i-share na isa sa mga nakita nating effective way of communicating the issue of unpaid care work is by using the 5 R's. So 5R. So the first R is recognition. So tamang-tama dun sa tanong na paano ko nga ba yan i-explain sa isang housewife na iniisip niya na talagang expectation yan sa kanya at trabaho niya yan. So paano nga ba explain yan? So sabi natin, we need to communicate that yung pag-intindi ng trabahong pag-aalaga or ang unpaid care and domestic work is indeed work. So hindi siya trabahong bahay lang. Work yun siya. So ibig sabihin natin, the recognition and the valuation of unpaid care work as work has to be recognized not only sa other members of the family but also sa babae mismo. Kasi tama tayo yung sinasabi natin na This is intergenerational eh. Nakikita natin yan sa ating mga nanay, sa ating mga lola. So talagang inequality starts at early age. Kaya yung nakikita sa ating survey na ginawa ng Oxfam, yung mga batang lalaki na nakikita nila na ang kanilang tatay ay gumagawa ng gawaing bahay, nagdadalan nila yon. So it's just the same as nung paglaki nila, for them, it's okay to do an care work kahit na lalaki ako. Kasi nakikita nila yon sa tatay at lolo nila. It's just the same as kasi nakikita ng batang babae na ang gumagawa ng gawaing bahay ay ang kanyang nanay o ang kanyang lola at automatic pinapasa from nanay to the eldest daughter. So talagang nasa mindset niya talaga yan. So kaya isa sa mga message ng ating campaign ngayon is to challenge that traditional thinking on the social norms perception. It's okay to do unpaid care work even if ikaw ay lalaki, ikaw ay tatay. Kasi ang part of communication dyan ay hindi ka dapat tumutulong. Kaya nga minsan iniwasan natin yung word na tulong eh. Kasi 'di ba sabi natin, oh sige, gagawin ko yung maglaba kasi tutulungan ko ang asawa ko para maglaba. Ang gusto sana nating i-break diyan ay hindi tulong kundi maglalaba ako kasi trabaho 'yan. Hindi 'yan dapat trabaho lang ng asawa ko. So we wanted to also, that's also a way of communicating eh. 'Di ba sabi natin it's all about communication. So perhaps this kind of narrative on how we communicate even that particular word, pwede natin siyang gamitin. So that's the first R. Second R is redistribution. It's just from me to you. So yung sinasabi natin na i-redistribute natin hindi lang actually sa members of the family kasi 'di ba kanina nga sa ating video mayroon tayong mga single parent, mayroon tayong mga single mom. So ano nga ba yung ibang form of redistribution? Doon sa tinatawag nating Care Diamond, mayroon yang redistribution within the community. Kasi 'di ba isa sa mga dapat mayroon, I think lumabas ito sa survey ni Coach Apple na lumalabas yung mga washing machine, rice cooker. Ang tawag po natin dyan ay time labor saving equipment. So ibig sabihin nun, mas napareduce yung number of hours. Kaya magandang talagang i-highlight natin yon. Hi, baby!
Hi, baby!
So redistribution, not just only in the family or members of the family, but also member of the community. Yung government na dapat mas i-invest or increase yung investment on care-related services such as water system. I think it was also mentioned earlier, no? Yung water system, health center, ECCD centers na nagpapababa ng drudgery of unpaid care. The third R is reduction. So that actually, I think that's the explanation now of if you are having washing machine or if you are having rice cooker or yung water system mo ay malapit lang sa bahay mo, di mas lalong mababa yung time that you spend on that. The fourth R is representation. So representation means kailangang isama natin sa usaping policy, program, mga projects and intervention yung ganitong usapan, valuing women's work. Kasi part ito ng tinatawag nating care economy. And the fifth R, ito yung bago, is reward. Reward means para naman po ito sa mga gumagawa, parang si DJ Jada yata sinasabi na we are not compensated since then. So sabi natin yung reward na yon means that yung mga nasa formal economy na sana ay mabigyan sila na talagang yung stable work condition or yung wage na compensated doon sa ginagawa nila, flexible working hours, na sana yung mga workplaces ay mayroon namang mga child minding center or mayroong supervised neighborhood play group na kung saan makakatulong yan na mapareduce yung drudgery of unpaid care. So I think that's the 5 R's. Sana natandaan natin. Again, reduction, recognition, representation, recognition, and reward. Yun po.
There you go. Thank you so much, Miss Leia. Now, guys, kung yung mga nanonood sa atin, kung di nyo nalista yan, huwag kayong mag-alala. You can always rewind and go back to the 5 R's. Kanina, na-mention ni Coach Apos about yung pag hindi mo ginawa yung chore mo, meron kaakibat or kasabay na parang punishment or the opposite of reward. So I'm gonna ask now, because since I saw Tina and Third's daughter, as a mom, what are some practical tips that you can share with the moms who are watching or the parents who are watching us right now, how they can raise their children to be more aware of the value of unpaid care and domestic work? Siguro one particular instance.
Na-challenge ako sa question. Never ko naisip yan. But I guess it's always about, it's always about showing them how to do it, right? Kasi if they, now, in our family, they can see that their tatay, because third is tatay to them, is doing some housework, then they will know and they will expect that later on with their future partners also, right? Now, it's okay that their partners that their partner will be doing some house chores also, and that it's not, house chores are not limited to women. There's a lot of pressure talaga on women, lalo because the previous generation and the previous generation before the previous generation. Kasi talaga yung mga babae, ang expected sa kanila sa bahay, and sila, yung taga-alaga ng, alam mo yung mga anak, mag-make sure na malinis ang bahay, yung ganun. But times are different now. So, inisip ko nga kanina, what changed this kind of mindset among a lot of us women nowadays, right? So, malaking bagay sa tingin ko is really education, diba? Like being open ourselves up to something different. Because there can be more to this life. I mean, there's more to motherhood, there's more to being a wife, right? There's more to life. Alam mo yun? You can be so many things as long as you are able to have that kind of life with someone who understands what you want, right? You have that kind of life na you I guess probably yung meron kayong same vision, diba? Same vision of a life that you will live together, and a life that you can build not even just together, a life na you can also be proud na, alam mo yun, nabuo mo, na not, outside your marriage or outside your role as a mom, yung gano'n. So, yeah, I think it's mirroring and showing the kids na, okay, these are possible, okay? You can do some work while raising kids. Alam mo yun, you can share house chores, and hindi yan ikakababa ng pagkalalaki ng sino mang lalaki. Yung gano'n. So, I think yun. It's a process. Again, it's a process, and we really just need to show the next generation that it's okay.
Alam niyo, sobrang important nung sinasabi nila Doc Tina and Attorney Third. Lalo na sa mga single, take note. Alam niyo po na kailangan single pa lang tayo, klaro na tayo sa mga gusto nating kung sino yung partner na talagang gusto natin, no? Anong pamilya, ganyan. Kailangan clear tayo. Sa kids po, in Montessori school, we have this called planes of development. And ages 0 to 6 is what we call the absorbent mind. Yung 0 to 6 years old, dun po nila talaga nakukuha, natututunan lahat. And dun magbe-base yung personality nila when they, cross over to 7 and up. Yung decision-making nila, yung self-confidence nila, nagsistart po yan 0 to 6. Kasi yung independence, so when you show them independence, 0 to 6, you're actually building their self-confidence. Because it is innate in their self na they are getting the reward of motivation and self-fulfillment. That's what's at stake po. That's why it's very important to start them young and early.
You know, I was about to ask you, Coach Apples, about that. How do you teach your children in the Montessori? Because, okay, before, ang dami ating questions. I want to accommodate all of your questions, but we can only be in front of, we can only have so much screen time, even for adults. Okay, guys? May limit ang screen time ng adults. But I just want to say that my 9-year-old, he grew up, yung first 2 years sa Montessori, they really taught independence, all the household
Yes.
chores, tinuturo sa kanila,
Yes.
lalaki, babae, you know, you can sweep the floor, wash the dishes, even if you're a guy. And
Yes.
also in our household, I'm proud to say that household chores are distributed, syempre sa akin, and my husband, Mike, my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, Isabel, and my 9-year-old son. My 9-year-old son, even if wala masyadong household chores, you know, you can just ask him, can you get us this, pick this up, and then look after yourself na lang. Independence talaga.
Yes.
Meron pa ako sanang tanong for Miss Leia about transportation, electricity, responsibilities. Pero siguro we can answer that off cam na lang, no? Kasi ang screen time nga. So before we say goodbye to our panelists, any final words to, you know, to those who attended the very first session of Home Squad PH? Let's begin with Mr. and Mrs. Domesticated.
Okay. Hi everyone. Again, thank you for having us. Ako, I think ang last message ko na lang is that it's okay to want something more. Like, it's okay to want, it starts with that yung wanting to have a different kind of life na ayoko yung ganito na parang ako lang parati yung nagtatrabaho sa bahay. Ayoko yung ganito na parang pagod ako parati, diba? Because it starts with knowing. And then after that, know what you want, right? Know what you want, and then discuss that with your partner and with your family. So, malaking bagay ang communication. I guess a lot of us talaga challenge ang communication. So, ano yan? Trial and error din, I think. Diba? Kasi what works for one will not work for other people. But, yeah. Well, I think medyo universal naman that if medyo yung idadaan mo ng very lightly, yung gano'n na medyo comic, baka mas maging open yung other side. Yun. Nanggugulo tong isa.
Okay lang.
Okay.
So, third, very briefly, promote mo naman yung social
Yes.
media accounts ninyo. Yan ang toka mo today.
Yes, so you can follow Mrs. Domesticated and Mr. Domesticated on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then si Tina has her
Well, we talk about wellness because I'm a doctor, so I like talking about wellness a lot. So I hope that you can follow us. We're healthier, where we advocate for healthier homes, which is all about having, choosing better food, exercising, choosing better products for our family, diba? Having healthier finances, better relationships also is part of having healthier homes, right? Because you cannot have a healthier home without having healthier relationships, especially with the people you are living with, right? So, mga ganang bagay. So, hope you can follow us at Mrs. Domesticated and Mr. Domesticated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are two separate accounts. Okay, Coach Apples, ikaw naman. Sino mga pa-shout out natin dyan? To all your children in the Montessori.
Yes, and I have 3 kids, I forgot to mention. Although malalaki na po sila, 24, 19, and 13. That's why yung division of responsibility and household chores on dali. Tapos they came from Montessori school pa. So yung advocacy po ng Oxfam, lahat ng ginagawa nila dito sobrang importante. It's really a game changer for especially for us women. But kailangan rin po natin itawid yung mga sarili nating kagustuhan at pangangailangan. Kasi mababaliwala po lahat ng polisiya na babaguhin nila or lahat ng mga proseso, na pinupush nila. Kung tayo po in our mind, kontento na tayo sa ganon. So tama yung sinabi ni Doc Tina na it is okay to want more. Equality is a right for everybody. So just always keep in touch with Home Squad PH para po sa mga updates natin sa progress dito. Sobrang galing.
Thank you so much, Coach Apples. And now, Ms. Leia from Oxfam Pilipinas for our first community session. Please invite them kasi this is not gonna be the last. This is just the first.
Yes, may mga susunod pa po na mga webinar series sa usaping unpaid care work and promoting sharing of care work, especially sa ating urban millennials, no? So siguro just to reiterate lang na sana tayo ay magtutulong-tulungan sa patuloy na pag-uusap sa usaping valuing women's work, and sana tayo ay isusulong natin yung 5 R's: recognition, reduction, redistribution, representation, and reward. Kasi po ang sinasabi natin na care work is teamwork, and care work makes all other works possible. Mukhang may nabasa ako niyan dito sa chat natin. So yun po, please follow Oxfam Pilipinas page at yung ating Home Squad PH.
Thank you so much, Miss Leia. Thank you so much, Third and Tina. And to baby, what's your name, baby?
Amia.
Okay.
She is Amia.
Samia.
Nagsusuklay sa live.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Coach Apples, for joining us in this very first community session of Home Squad PH. And we hope to see you again in the next one because we covered a lot of things, but there is still so much more that we want to share with you. This time, let's turn over the floor to Ms. Jeanette Dalawan, Gender Justice Portfolio Manager of Oxfam Pilipinas, for a synthesis of the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, DJ Jada. I'll just put on my cam and then put it off because I'm just outside my house just to have a good reception and connectivity since I'm not in the urban area, but I'm in the rural area. So we have a connectivity problem. But let me share my synthesis with you. Thank you to all our speakers and to those who also share their experiences in terms of unpaid care and their perceptions as well. So we have seen in the videos, magaganda yung mga videos na nakita natin. Andito yung mga stories and narratives of the transformation of attitude towards care work and the stories of how when we value care work, nakikita na ito pala ay worth na billions, no? And at the same time, valuing it also helps or makes people happier, healthier, and more visible and valued, especially ang mga kababaihan na kung saan sila na yung mas nagkikerry ng care and domestic work. And at sinasabi nga ng isang nasa video kanina, sabi ni Melvin, nagiging there's a better life for the whole family when care work is shared among family or household members. At dito nakita din natin yung isa pang video ng Oxfam Philippines kung saan pinakita na yung 13 hours na unpaid care na ginugugol ng mga kababayan pre-pandemic pa lang. At dito nakikita din natin yung unpaid care ay dito nalilimit yung mga kababaihan at napupunta sila sa low-paying job at the same time nag-home base din ng productive work dahil mas ang expectation sa kanila ay yung prioritize ang care work. Nakita din natin yung iba't ibang perception ng mga kalakihan at kababaihan pagdating sa care work. Sinasabi ng iba, dapat ang mga kababaihan kasi sila ang mas may kakayahan, kasi ang mga kalalakihan dapat sila ang naghanap buhay. Pero nakikita natin ang now normal natin ay nagpapakita na ang bawat babae, lalaki, batang babae at batang lalaki ay kasama sa care work. At dito, ang sinasabi nga natin, let's break the tradition, especially when these are harmful to women and young girls. At dito nakita din natin ang sinabi ni Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda, yung the mental load also of ensuring the well-being of a family, and how do we have to denormalize discrimination in the household, and why the need to speak out even in our families against attitude that are and behavior that are discriminatory, and why we have to also break away from all these traditional and stereotype expectations. At sinasabi din dito na yung now normal natin, this is especially for the families that do not have house help now. This is also our opportunity to look at this is also our opportunity na makita yung to value also every little contribution, to recognize those who are pitching in terms of sharing household care and domestic work. At tinitingnan din yata yung placing value to benefits, especially and of course paying also compensating also our house help and those who work at nagsishare ng mga household and care work sa ating families. We have to compensate, as she has also reiterated, we have to compensate beyond the minimum. At dito naman nakita natin yung kay Apples naman, ang sinasabi niya that we have to take care of our core, how do we stay productive in our now normal, and to look into looking at these opportunities as well, to have looking at these opportunities as well, and becoming part of a history, a part of evolution, in managing our four core well-being in terms of relationship, self and spirituality, physical health, and money and creativity. And then of course, yung tips niya in terms of communicating to communication is important, clarity, and then taking care of ourselves and physical conditions, and of course yung contributions natin as part of our and then of course we also had Leah and the Mr. and Mrs. Domesticated and Coach Apples on the platform as well. So wag nating kalimutan yung ang isang nakita natin, narinig natin din sa BPO, mga na-interview na mga nag-work sa BPOs, ang sinasabi nila, pinaka-importante din yung edukasyon ng mga bata, kung saan dito nagsisimula ang pagtuturo din ng stereotype expectations, thus the need to really educate our children in terms of correcting also stereotype expectations of women and men, girls and boys. So yan po, at bago tayo magtapos, wag po nating kalimutan yung 5 Rs, yung recognition, redistribution, reward, reduction, and of course, representation. So ayan, maraming salamat po. Wag po nating kalimutan din ang ating hashtags. Back to you, DJ Jada.
Thank you so much, Miss Jeanette Dulawan, Gender Justice Portfolio Manager of Oxfam Pilipinas, for the synthesis. And you mentioned the hashtags. Okay, just to give you a recap of the hashtags: Home Squad PH, care work is real work, care work is shared work, and pro-women measures now. On behalf of Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women, maraming salamat to all of you who participated in the first Home Squad PH community session. What is our now normal? Life hacks on job stress, care work, and community quarantine. We're posting all the presentations on our group pages, so do make sure that you join Home Squad PH on Facebook. And we'd love to hear your feedback about our community session tonight. For those on Zoom, remember to answer our post-event survey questions and be an advocate and help us spread the word on unpaid care work through Facebook. Again, with the hashtags Home Squad PH, Care Work is Real Work, Care Work is Shared Work, and Pro Women Measures Now. Please join us once again, the Home Squad PH group on Facebook. And thank you to all of you who joined us on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. We will have another community session very, very soon. We will announce the details in our community page, Home Squad PH. Hope to see you all again. Keep safe, keep well, and have a good weekend ahead. Bye-bye.